Haiti is a nation found in the Caribbean Sea. It shares the island of Hispaniola with its neighbor, the Dominican Republic. This beautiful country occupies the western third of the island. It's known for its vibrant culture, its powerful history, and its stunning landscapes. The waters of the Caribbean gently lap against its shores while the Atlantic Ocean borders its northern coast. The capital city, Port-au-Prince, sits on the Gulf of Gonave. It's the heart of the nation, a bustling center of commerce, art, and daily life for millions of people. Understanding Haiti begins with understanding its name, a word that holds the story of its land and its people within its syllables. The journey to its current name is a long and winding road. It's a story that travels through time, from the island's earliest inhabitants to the brave revolutionaries who fought for its soul. Before it was Haiti, it was known by other names, names given by outsiders who sought to claim it for themselves. But the original name, the one that truly describes its essence, was never completely lost. It waited patiently through centuries of struggle and change. The story of Haiti's name is not just about a word, it's about identity, resilience, and the deep connection between a people and their homeland, a land defined by its majestic and ever-present mountains. Port-au-Prince itself is a testament to this mountainous character. The city is surrounded by steep hills and peaks, which shape its layout and influence the lives of its residents. From almost any point in the capital, you can look up and see the mountains watching over the urban sprawl. They're a constant backdrop to the daily rhythm of life, from the busy markets to the quiet residential neighborhoods. This geography has presented challenges, but it's also provided refuge and inspiration. The capital is the nation's economic and political hub, but its spirit is undeniably tied to the natural fortress that cradles it, a feature that has defined the island for millennia. The name Haiti is more than just a label on a map. It's a declaration. It speaks of a history that predates European arrival and celebrates a victory against one of the world's greatest powers. It connects the present-day nation to its indigenous roots and honors the land itself. When we ask, why is it called Haiti, we're asking to hear the story of a nation's journey. We're asking to understand how a place can shape its people, and how those people, in turn, can reclaim their identity by embracing the name that was first given to their extraordinary mountainous home, a place often called the Pearl of the Antilles. Long before the arrival of European ships, the island was known by a different name. The indigenous people who lived there, the Taíno, called their home Ayiti. This beautiful word in their language held a simple and powerful meaning: land of high mountains. It was a perfect description of the place they knew. The island is the most mountainous in the Caribbean. Its landscape is dominated by rugged ranges and towering peaks that seem to rise directly from the sea. For the Taíno, these mountains were not just a feature of the land, they were the very definition of their world, providing everything from water and food to spiritual sanctuary. The Taíno people were skilled observers of their environment. Their language was rich with words that described the natural world around them. Naming the island Ayiti was a way of honoring its most defining characteristic. The name captured the awe-inspiring sight of mountain chains stretching across the horizon, their peaks often shrouded in mist. These mountains were the source of the island's many rivers, which flowed down to the fertile plains and coastal areas where the Taíno built their villages. The name reflected a deep and intimate knowledge of the land, a connection that was woven into the fabric of their society and their daily existence. This original name tells us a great deal about the first people of the island. It shows that they saw their home not as a collection of resources to be exploited, but as a living entity defined by its powerful geography. The mountains provided security and a sense of place. They were landmarks for travel and sacred sites for religious ceremonies. The word Ayiti is therefore more than a simple geographical label. It's a cultural artifact, a surviving piece of the Taíno worldview. It reminds us that the history of the island did not begin with colonization but with a vibrant and complex society that lived in harmony with its mountainous environment. When we hear the word Ayiti, we're hearing an echo of the Taíno language. We're being transported back to a time when the island was a peaceful home to a thriving culture. The name is a direct link to this pre-colonial past, a thread that was almost severed but never completely broken. It stands as a powerful testament to the island's enduring identity. The mountains that inspired the name are still there today, just as majestic and imposing as they were centuries ago. They're a physical reminder of the island's first name and the people who spoke it into existence. Before Christopher Columbus and his fleet arrived in 1492, Ayiti was a peaceful and well-organized land. The Taíno people had lived there for centuries, having migrated from the mainland of South America. They developed a complex society based on agriculture, fishing, and trade. Their communities were led by chieftains known as caciques, and society was divided into different social classes. They were skilled farmers, growing crops like cassava, sweet potatoes, corn, and cotton in carefully cultivated fields. Their villages were often located near the coast or along rivers, allowing them easy access to water for farming and fishing. The Taíno had a rich spiritual and cultural life. They worshipped deities known as zimis, which were representations of gods and ancestral spirits, often carved from wood, stone, or shell. Their religious beliefs were deeply connected to nature, and they held ceremonies that included music, dance, and storytelling to honor their gods and the natural world. They were also talented artisans, creating intricate pottery, woven cotton goods, and jewelry. Their lives were governed by the rhythms of nature, the changing seasons, and the cycles of planting and harvesting. It was a world that was both stable and vibrant, built over generations of living in harmony with the island. The island was divided into 5 chiefdoms, or cachicazgos: Marien, Magua, Maguana, Jaragua, and Haigüe. Each chiefdom was ruled by a principal cacique and had its own distinct territory. This political structure allowed for peaceful governance and cooperation between different regions. The Taíno were not a warlike people, though they did have to defend themselves from raids by the more aggressive Carib people from neighboring islands. For the most part, however, life in Ayiti was characterized by community, cooperation, and a deep respect for the land that sustained them. Their population was estimated to be in the hundreds of thousands, a testament to their successful way of life. This was the world that existed before the sails of European ships appeared on the horizon. It was a self-sufficient society with its own laws, customs, and beliefs. The people of Ayiti had a profound understanding of their mountainous island, and their culture was a direct reflection of that environment. They had created a sustainable way of life that had lasted for centuries. The arrival of the Europeans would bring about a sudden and catastrophic end to this world, but the memory of it, preserved in stories and in the very name of the land, would endure as a crucial part of Haiti's identity. In December 1492, the peaceful existence of the Taíno people was shattered forever. Christopher Columbus, on his first voyage to the Americas, landed on the northern coast of Ayiti. Mistakenly believing he had reached Asia, he was captivated by the island's beauty, its green mountains and its fertile valleys. He claimed the entire island for the Spanish crown and gave it a new name, La Isla Española, which means the Spanish island. This name was later Latinized to Hispaniola. The act of renaming the island was a powerful symbol of conquest. It was the first step in erasing the indigenous identity of the land and imposing a new, foreign authority upon it. The arrival of the Spanish marked the beginning of a brutal period of colonization. The newcomers were driven by a desire for gold, and they quickly forced the Taíno people into labor in mines and on plantations. The Spanish established settlements, with the first, La Navidad, being built from the wreckage of Columbus's flagship, the Santa Maria. The relationship between the Spanish and the Taíno quickly deteriorated from one of initial curiosity to one of exploitation and violence. The Spanish viewed the indigenous people not as fellow human beings, but as a resource to be used for their own enrichment. This brutal mindset led to unimaginable suffering. The consequences for the Taíno population were catastrophic. They faced enslavement, forced labor, and extreme violence. More devastating, however, were the diseases brought by the Europeans, such as smallpox, measles, and influenza. The Taíno had no immunity to these foreign illnesses, and epidemics swept through their communities, wiping out entire villages. Within just a few decades of the Spanish arrival, the Taíno population, which had numbered in the hundreds of thousands, was almost completely annihilated. Their culture, their language, and their way of life were systematically destroyed, leaving only faint traces behind, including the name Ayiti. The Spanish colonization transformed the island. They introduced new crops, such as sugarcane, and brought enslaved Africans to work on the plantations as the indigenous workforce died out. The name Hispaniola became synonymous with this new colonial order, a place of immense wealth for Spain, built on the foundations of genocide and slavery. While the Spanish held control of the entire island for over a century, their focus eventually shifted to the more lucrative conquests on the mainland, like Mexico and Peru. This neglect allowed other European powers to challenge Spain's claim. setting the stage for the next chapter in the island's turbulent history. By the 17th century, Spain's grip on Hispaniola had really weakened. French pirates and buccaneers started using the western part of the island as a base for their operations, and over time they began to set up permanent settlements there. Spain, unable to control the whole territory effectively, eventually ceded the western third of Hispaniola to France with the Treaty of Ryswick in 1697. The French called their new territory Saint-Domingue, and under their rule, this colony would actually become the most profitable in the world. Its wealth, though, was built on a brutal system of plantation slavery, producing huge amounts of sugar and coffee for the European market. Saint-Domingue earned the nickname Pearl of the Antilles because of its incredible economic output. By the 1780s, it was producing about 40% of the sugar and 60% of the coffee that Europe imported. But all this wealth was generated by the forced labor of hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans. They were brought to the colony in absolutely horrific conditions, and forced to live lives filled with cruelty and relentless labor. The French slave code, known as the Code Noir, was supposed to regulate how enslaved people were treated, but honestly its rules were widely ignored by plantation owners, who often worked people to death. The society in Saint-Domingue was extremely stratified, with a tiny elite of white planters at the very top. The population was overwhelmingly made up of enslaved people. By the late 18th century, there were nearly 500,000 enslaved Africans compared to only about 40,000 white colonists and 30,000 free people of color, known as gens de couleur libre. This huge demographic imbalance created an atmosphere of constant fear and tension. The white planters lived in constant dread of a slave revolt and used extreme violence to keep control. Meanwhile, the enslaved people managed to preserve elements of their African cultures, religions, and languages, creating a new blended culture that would become the foundation of Haitian identity, including the practice of Vodou. The cruelty of the system, combined with the ideals of liberty that were spreading from the French Revolution, made things incredibly volatile. The enslaved people of Saint-Domingue did not just accept their fate. They resisted in all sorts of ways, from running away to form maroon communities in the mountains, to plotting small-scale uprisings. For France, the name Saint-Domingue meant unimaginable wealth, but for most of the people living there it meant a life of bondage, suffering, and a constant dream of freedom. And soon, this dream would erupt into a revolution that would shake the world and ultimately give the land back its rightful name. The call for freedom in Saint-Domingue finally exploded into a full-scale revolution in August 1791. Inspired by the French Revolution's Declaration of the Rights of Man, the enslaved people of the northern plains rose up against their masters. The uprising began with a Vodou ceremony at Bois Caiman, led by a priest named Duddy Bouchman. This event marked the start of a long and bloody struggle that would last for more than a decade. The Haitian Revolution became the largest and most successful slave rebellion in modern history. It was a really complex conflict, with shifting alliances between the enslaved, free people of color, and white colonists, plus intervention from Spanish and British forces. Out of all this chaos, a remarkable military and political leader emerged, Toussaint Louverture. He was a formerly enslaved man who rose to command the rebel army. Louverture was a strategic genius, fighting against the French, Spanish, and British, and by 1801, he had gained control over the whole island of Hispaniola. He abolished slavery and issued a constitution, though he stopped short of declaring full independence from France, hoping to keep some autonomy within the French Empire. His leadership turned a scattered rebellion into a disciplined and effective fighting force, paving the way for the creation of an independent nation. But Napoleon Bonaparte, who had come to power in France, was determined not to lose the valuable colony of Saint-Domingue. In 1802, he sent a huge expedition led by his brother-in-law, Charles Leclerc, to restore slavery in French authority. Leclerc managed to capture Louverture through trickery and deported him to a prison in the French Alps, where he died in 1803. But Napoleon's plan, in the end, failed. When it became clear that the French intended to re-enslave the population, Louverture's top general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, renewed the fight for independence with fierce determination. The French army was devastated by both the rebel forces and a yellow fever epidemic. The victory of the Haitian rebels was a truly landmark achievement. A force of formerly enslaved people defeated one of the most powerful armies in the world. Their success sent shockwaves across the Americas, terrifying slave-owning societies and inspiring hope among enslaved people everywhere. The fight for freedom wasn't just about ending slavery, it was about creating a new nation founded on the principle that all people are born free and equal. The final defeat of the French at the Battle of Vertières in November 1803 sealed the fate of the colony and opened the door for the birth of a new, independent nation. On January 1, 1804, Jean-Jacques Dessalines stood before the people and declared the independence of what had once been the colony of Saint-Domingue. In a powerful and deeply symbolic move, he rejected the colonial names of Saint-Domingue and Hispaniola. Instead, he reached back into the island's history and revived its original Taíno name. He declared that the new nation would be called Haiti. This choice was a deliberate and profound statement. It was a way of connecting the new free nation to its pre-colonial roots and completely breaking away from the brutal legacy of French and Spanish rule. The name Haiti became a symbol of a new beginning. By choosing the name Haiti, meaning land of high mountains, the nation's founders weren't just honoring the Taíno people who had been wiped out by colonization. They were also claiming the land's geography as a core part of their new identity. The mountains had played a crucial role in their victory. They served as natural fortresses and places of refuge for runaway slaves known as Maroons for centuries. The mountains were where resistance was planned and where fighters could retreat and regroup. By naming their country after these mountains, the revolutionaries were acknowledging the role the land itself had played in their liberation. The birth of Haiti was a revolutionary moment in world history. It was the first independent nation in Latin America and the Caribbean, the first black-led republic in the world, and the only state in history established by a successful slave revolt. Dessalines became its first ruler, first as governor-general and later as emperor. The reclaiming of the name Haiti was a radical act of self-definition. It announced to the world that this was a nation of free people who would define their own identity, on their own terms, rooted in the history and geography of their homeland. The name was a declaration of sovereignty and pride. This act of renaming has had a lasting impact on Haiti's national consciousness. It serves as a constant reminder of the country's unique origins and the ideals on which it was founded. It sets Haiti apart from other post-colonial nations that kept their colonial names. The choice of Haiti was a conscious rejection of a past defined by oppression, and an embrace of a future built on freedom and a connection to the island's most ancient heritage. The name itself stands as a monument to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of fighting for your own identity. Today, the mountains of Haiti continue to symbolize the nation's identity, just as the name suggests. They are a constant physical presence, shaping the landscape and the lives of the Haitian people. These mountains stand as silent witnesses to the country's turbulent history, from the time of the Taíno to the struggles of the present day. The mountains represent both hardship and hope. They can make farming and transportation tough, but they also provide breathtaking beauty and a powerful sense of place. For many Haitians, the mountains are a source of spiritual strength and a reminder of the resilience that's truly coded into their national DNA. The symbolism of the mountains is deeply woven into Haitian culture. They appear in art, music, and literature, often standing for a place of refuge, freedom, and connection to the ancestors. In Vodou, some mountains are considered sacred spaces home to powerful spirits, or Elway. This spiritual link reinforces the idea that the land itself is alive and deeply connected to the fate of its people. The mountains are more than just geographical features. They're part of the nation's soul, representing the strength and endurance needed to overcome incredible obstacles. They are, quite literally, the backbone of the land of high mountains. The name Haiti, then, perfectly captures this heritage. It serves as a daily reminder of the nation's founding principles, the rejection of colonialism, the celebration of freedom, and the deep bond with the land. It tells the story of a people who, against all odds, threw off the chains of slavery and forged their own destiny. The mountains that gave the country its name also gave its people the high ground from which to fight for their freedom. This legacy of resilience continues to define Haiti as it faces modern challenges, from political instability and economic hardship to natural disasters. Thinking about the question, why is it called Haiti, leads us to a story of profound historical significance. The name is a bridge connecting the modern nation to its indigenous past and to the heroic struggle for independence. It tells of a people who chose to define themselves not by their oppressors, but by the ancient, powerful landscape of their home. Haiti's mountains are a testament to endurance, and its name is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of its people. So, what's the story behind the name of your country? I invite you to share it, so we can all keep uncovering the rich histories hidden within the names on our world map.